I'm not exactly a fashion queen. I had a propeller hat. Yeah, I just love the little propeller hat, love the little whole thing. So
But they need to come back. We need to bring them back.
I will not be. But
Okay.
You know what? Go for it.
What does being your authentic self mean to you?
Very simply, it's being happy.
Yeah.
There's a Baz Luhrmann quote that I love because I grew up watching Strictly Ballroom. I know that a life lived in fear is a life half lived, which is, I know. I watched that around the time I was coming out, and I went, oh, yeah. I don't want to, have to tuck away a part of myself when I go into different spaces. I want to be proud of every facet of me, no matter where I am. So for me, it's being proud of who I am, it's living a full life in everything I do, and it's being happy, surrounded by people who I love and who love me in return.
I think being like a queer, trans and disabled person, sometimes it feels very radical to say that out loud, especially in different spaces. But it's also really beautiful to be able to sort of try and give permission to others that it's okay and try and create space for other people who have similar experiences to mine within those spaces. What's your experience of intersectionality?
Ooh, I love this question. I think for me, intersectionality impacts everything that I do and that I experience. That when I experience things as a queer woman, I'm also experiencing them as a person living with mental health conditions. I'm experiencing it as a person living with a chronic illness. I'm experiencing it as a person from a rural area originally.
I think it's taking every part of me that goes hand in hand and recognising the importance of it. So I am a proud Aboriginal woman, I'm a proud queer woman, I do live with mental ill health, and that's okay, and it's just not focusing on one specific part of my identity or making that the one thing that defines me.
I think it's also about honouring the legacy of the people who have fought so hard for me to have the rights and privileges I do now.
Absolutely.
And I think sort of when you're in those spaces of like advocacy, I think sort of sometimes they'll only pick you for one of your identities. And I think intentionally bringing along the rest of my experiences and being like, hey, these are things we need to talk about. We can't just address the queer community because there are queer disabled people who you will miss if you do that. Did you see LGBTQIA+ representation and visibility growing up? And how did that affect the way you wanted to express yourself or even how you felt about yourself?
For me, a lot of the stuff I saw in the media I did not relate to, it was not representative of me. It actually made me go, oh, I don't look like that, so maybe I'm not queer. But for me, a really special memory was at my childhood home, my next door neighbours were two beautiful gay men. And that was my first, I would have been 2 or 3, my first experience of people of diverse backgrounds. And that my parents just went, yeah, they're together and they're in love and that's it, full stop. And I didn't think twice about, their relationship or the fact it was 2 men. It was just, they're really cool because they have a pool slide in their backyard and they've got like 20 animals and they're really nice. So that was my first experience. And so growing up, I never thought of queer couples and queer people as any different. It was just, oh yeah, 2 people who are together, that's nice. And so it didn't make it feel so scary when I was first realising, I didn't think twice about how I would experience life. It was, oh well, yeah, I would just means I'll be with maybe someone of the same sex or maybe I won't. Cool.
Which I think makes it like, I feel like a little kid when I see things like Heartbreak High and there's Queenie who's the disabled lesbian and I'm just like, oh my god, like that is amazing. Like, oh my god, they like captured an experience that like mirrors mine. And I think that's like why I try and do things and, advocate for the queer community, is because I really want there to be more representation for, for little kids and, young people who might be like not even sure that what the LGBTQ community is.
I also didn't really have much. I'm sure there definitely was, but I was just so oblivious to it. It wasn't spoken about. It wasn't something that, you know, anyone really talked about, and like if it was ever in the media, it would be very much like dramatized, so that it was like, oh, this is a thing that's happening, or, you know, like, so it was always like, just seemed so not in my world. And I think that really impacted my whole journey of like not really recognizing it in myself. People are talking about it now, and we're actually being able to have our voices heard, and I think that's just going to continue, and I'm so grateful and proud to be part of that.
Did you ever feel like there were expectations of how you should dress or act when you came out?
I would say a little bit. I think I felt the pressure to dress in certain ways, like be a bit more alternative, and to be fair, some of that is just because I get to feel more comfortable in my clothes and I want to be more alternative and wear what I want, and who cares if it stands out a little bit. And I think I was worried that people would think that dyeing my hair was a whole like, hey, I'm queer, but it's so not. It was something I'd wanted to do for ages anyway, and I think there was that pressure to perform, but it was more just I wanted people to know, and I wasn't scared of hiding it, and I think that was a nice moment.
Yeah, I don't know if there was ever a pressure or whether or not I created that, but it wasn't really sort of something that I went into or felt pressured by. I think that was just constant throughout my life, whether or not it was due to my identity or societal pressures. And I think like for some people, I don't know if this is relevant to everyone, but I don't feel like it's necessary to be entirely outward about your identity and fully express it. And I think, I don't know if that comes from being in a rural town, but it's about picking and choosing, not necessarily picking and choosing, but for what's best for me at the time and what I feel safe and what I feel comfortable with. I don't feel like I need to drape myself in a rainbow and run around, and I think that's something that I'm learning and something that I'm getting to feel more okay with, that I can just be exactly who I am at the time and exactly where I feel comfortable. I don't need to sort of venture either way.
Yeah, I felt a lot of pressure, with media and the way that queer women were represented when I was growing up. I thought, well, if I don't look that way, then maybe I'm not. I had other people when I was in high school saying this is what a gay person looks like, and you don't look like that, so you can't be. I didn't dress the right way, I was told. I was too feminine, and yeah, there's a lot of labels and stereotypes that were put on me that I didn't really relate to. So I felt a lot of pressure when I was younger that, oh, well, maybe I don't actually belong in the community because I don't look the right way. But as I've got older and the media has become more diverse and representative, it's not perfect, but it's a lot better. I've gone, I don't have to look a certain way. I can look super feminine or I can not look super feminine.
I think the way that the trans community thinks about our relationship to our bodies and what we look like is one of my favourite things about it. And so I actually felt like there was a lot more options when I came out as like non-binary or trans to myself. Do you have any advice on how to tray? How to tray? Do you have any advice on how to stay true to yourself?
Think about your values, what's important to you. For me, no matter where I am or what I'm doing, or if I'm in a queer space or a mental health space or a disabled space, for me it's just about, what's important to me, and what's important to me is love, truth, integrity, all that fun stuff.
I think recognising as well that it's not always easy to stay true to yourself. Like it can be really hard, and sort of thinking about that, and I guess if there is a situation that you reflect back on and you say, wow, that really wasn't me, or that wasn't the version of me that I want to portray, understanding that that's okay as well. I think that's really important.
What would you do to not make yourself, but feel more okay about that, do you reckon?
I wish I knew.
I wish I had the answers.
Yeah, no, genuinely, I do. I really wish that I wish it was easier. I wish it
Yeah.
was so much easier to just sit and be like, that's who I
okay.
am, and I want to be okay with that. So I think it is really such a journey.
I think like staying true to yourself also has a lot to do with like the social situations that you're in and the people that you're around.
Yeah, for sure.
Like sometimes it isn't safe
Yeah,
to be your true self, and that is completely fine.
Yeah.
Safety is the number one, whether it's emotional or physical. I think sometimes you can stay true to yourself inside while knowing that there's not much you can do about the external situation.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think also for me, like sometimes I don't have heaps of friends, but like the friends that I have, I value so much, and they are people who make me feel like wherever I'm at, wherever I'm at in my journey, that, I can express myself how I want to. There's really nothing I'm afraid to say to my friends. And so I think it's a lot about the people that you're able to be around or that you choose to be around.